back in the 70s and 80s, and just historically, for reasons which I won't bore you with, I was looking at it at the time. And that started off in 1974, and in 1974 there was a paper published from Great Ormond Street Hospital where they'd gone back through medical records of children and they found incidences of what at the time they would call permanent brain damage. And they included, it was 36 children, and they included in the series children who developed permanent brain damage within 14 days of DTP vaccination. That's the diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis shot, and the suspect element was always thought to be the pertussis element, although in hindsight it's now felt the whole thing was with another MMR issue. And in lawsuits there were a huge number of lawsuits over the DTP vaccine, both in the United States, and there, the time limit, they would say, well, if the problem, if the brain damage came on within 14 days, we'll say it was the vaccine, and if it came on later, we'll say it wasn't. So it's pretty arbitrary, but that's what they did. And there was a government report in 1981 talking about 2 weeks, and in the vaccine injury compensation in the UK, the time frame they give is 14 days, in the United States it's 15. And in the first 12, 8 out of the 12 children's parents said it was the MMR, which by my calculation is 60%. But when it went on to the 30 children, the percentage dropped to only 37%. 11 of the parents said it was the MMR. And I actually raised this with the editor of the Lancet, with Evan Harris, sitting at the other end of the table from me at the time. And I said, well, look, whatever way you look at it, I've just done 2 examples. The top one is one example of where the extra cases of blaming the MMR might fall within the 30, and the second one is bunching them together. Whatever was going on, we didn't know because we couldn't get the data of these other children. There was some kind of cluster right at the start when it was work. These parents had somehow all turned up all at once and then said, well, it was the MMR doctor. And then as time went on, the numbers saying this dropped off massively. Now, why on earth would that be? Why on earth would that be? And here's the answer. That the kids are actually selected. You won't be able to, most of you won't be able to see this. I'll just give you a hint that in the middle, the orange two, if you look at the absolute middle of the thing, you'll see a couple which are in orange. Those 2 boys, and you presented them all blaming MMR, the answer would just say, well, that's a series of parents blaming MMR. Now, there's no reason why you shouldn't publish a paper. In fact, it happened on DTP. There were papers published in small journals where people involved in litigation and people involved in campaigning of various sorts, their stories were presented. You wouldn't get it in the Lancet, and it kind of gives the game away. But the second thing is that with the 11 out of 12, the time to the first onset was actually 60 days. Because some of these parents were saying, oh, well, it's a couple of months later, I think, which doesn't really help, because the target is the 14-day temporal link. You know, a couple of months later, 3 months earlier, you know, that doesn't help. They were looking for the time link. So, what do? They take them out. They take out the ones where the parents say it's a couple of months. They remove 3, Wakefield removes 3, and he brings it down from 11 out of 12 to 8 out of 12, and the time link goes down to 14 days. And this is great. This is absolutely great because you get the 14 days, which is a very disturbing, you get 8 out of 12, which is the range 56 days. So you get a completely different figure for this earlier draft where 9 out of 12 rather than 8 or 11 out of 12. Now, so here's what actually happened when the parents came into the hospital. 11 out of 12 said it was the MMR doctor. Here's the paper in its draft form, 6 months ahead of publication, where 9 out of the parents blame the MMR. And here's the paper that was actually published. So you get this extraordinary phenomenon of parents, of fewer and fewer parents blaming the MMR as time goes on. Now this is my favourite graph. Now I don't know whether the reason my favourite graph is that the colour scheme takes me back to a time in my life when life seemed a little simpler than it does today. But this is what happens between 9 out of 12 and 8 out of 12. On the left, you'll see that the range, 56 days, and the median, 14 days. That's what you get if 9 out of 12 is associated with recall that may have been prompted by, for example, media coverage. Now, so what he's basically saying is, well, we took those ones out because the parents made the connection later, and we only left in the ones that made the connection at the time that the vaccine was given. And you can kind of vaguely see how that argument works. The only problem is it doesn't say that in the paper, and it doesn't say it in the children's medical records. When did parents actually make a connection between